Have you ever wondered why a man's most frantic pursuit often begins not with a chase, but with a woman's profound and unnerving stillness? This isn't the loud, theatrical silence of a woman demanding attention, the kind of silence that is really a scream for validation. No, this is something else entirely. It is the silence of a galaxy collapsing into a single, dense point of light, a light that no longer shines for him. It is the quiet devastation of a woman's detachment, and it has the power to fracture the very foundations of the male ego. Carl Jung understood this dynamic not as a simple game of hard to get, but as a deep, psychic confrontation. The male ego, particularly an ego that has not done its own inner work, builds its cathedral on the foundation of external validation. It seeks mirrors. It craves a reflection that confirms its power, its desirability, its very existence. And for many men, the most potent mirror is the gaze of a woman. When you, the woman, provide the gaze, you are offering more than affection. You are offering a sense of psychic wholeness. You become, in Jungian terms, the screen upon which he projects his anima, his own unconscious, idealized feminine soul. Your admiration feels like his soul is admiring him back. Your desire feels like his own inner world is in perfect, harmonious alignment. But what happens when the mirror turns away? What happens when it no longer reflects his image, but instead reflects the vast, empty sky behind him? When you cease to be the mirror, you are not simply ignoring him. You are removing the very ground upon which his psychological cathedral stands. The devastation is quiet because it is not an external war. It is an internal collapse. He feels a fissure in the bedrock of his reality, a hairline crack in his sense of self that he cannot identify, yet it terrifies him. His first instinct is not sorrow, but a kind of frantic irritation, a confusion. It's a psychic error message. The input of his charm, his status, his attention is no longer producing the expected output of your emotional response. He will begin to test the connection like an engineer tapping a silent machine. He might become louder, more persistent. He might send a text designed to provoke, to get any reaction. Because even a negative reaction is a reflection. It proves the mirror is still there, just smudged. But when he is met with a placid surface, a calm that is not cold but is simply complete without him, the irritation gives way to a deeper, more primal anxiety. This is the beginning of the obsession. The woman's detachment becomes a locked room in his own psychic mansion. He cannot understand what is inside, and so he must, at all costs, find the key. He becomes obsessed not with her, but with the mystery she now represents, the mystery of a world that continues to spin, beautifully and perfectly, without his gravity to hold it in place. She has, perhaps without even intending to, triggered his descent into his own shadow, forcing him to confront the terrifying possibility that the source of her light was never him at all. It was always her. This frantic archaeology of his own psyche is where the real devastation takes root. He is no longer simply trying to win you back. He is trying to reclaim a piece of himself he didn't even know he had outsourced. The woman who has achieved this level of detachment has, often through her own journey of pain and shadow work, stumbled upon a profound spiritual truth. She has completed a circuit within herself. Her energy, which once flowed outward seeking validation, connection, and completion in a partner, has been rerouted. It now flows from her core, through her, and back to her core. She has become a self-sustaining source of light to the man whose ego is powered by external batteries. This is a terrifying and incomprehensible phenomenon. He mistakes her inner peace for a declaration of war. He perceives her self-sufficiency as a personal rejection. His attempts to re-engage you become less about seduction and more about psychological interrogation. He will scrutinize your social media for clues, analyze your friend's behavior, and replay past conversations, searching for the moment the tide turned. He is looking for a logical reason, a solvable problem. Because the ego cannot process a reality it did not cause and cannot fix. The truth that your detachment has nothing to do with him. and everything to do with your own individuation is the one answer his psychological framework is designed to reject. Here, we see the collision of the fundamentally different states of being. The man is operating from the persona, the mask he presents to the world. It is a carefully constructed identity built from his achievements, his social status, and his ability to influence others. You, however, have begun to operate from the self, the Jungian archetype of wholeness that lies beneath the ego. The self does not need to be seen. It simply is. When your self meets his persona short circuits. It's like trying to measure the temperature of the sun with a household thermometer. The instrument simply breaks. This is where the principles of Stoicism illuminate the dynamic. The detached woman has built what Marcus Aurelius called an inner citadel. It is a fortress of the mind, impervious to the chaos of external events and the opinions of others. Her happiness is not contingent. Her peace is not for sale. When you embody this, you are not playing a game. You are living a philosophy. You have understood what Epictetus meant when he taught that the only things we can control are our own judgments and reactions. You have ceased to react to him, and in doing so, you have stripped him of his primary weapon, the power to affect your emotional state. He is left shouting at the walls of a fortress, his voice echoing back at him, forcing him to hear the desperation in his own pleas. He is not fighting you. He is fighting the ghost of his own inadequacy, a shadow that your quiet light has suddenly cast in sharp relief. The man then enters a state of psychological vertigo. The predictable laws of emotional physics that governed his world have been suspended. His charm is gravity. His attention is the sun, and your response was the planet held in a perfect, life-giving orbit. Now, the planet has not crashed or exploded. It has simply revealed its own propulsion system and charted a new course. Through a different solar system, he is left spinning in a void, staring at an empty patch of sky. This emptiness is not peaceful for him. It is an abyss, and into this abyss, his own repressed psyche begins to scream. This is the activation of his shadow. Carl Jung described the shadow as the unknown, dark side of the personality. It contains all the parts of ourselves that we repress and hide, even from ourselves, our insecurities, our primitive instincts, our deepest fears. For the man who has built his ego on the conquest and validation of others, the primary shadow content is often a profound, infantile terror of being unseen, of being insignificant. Your attention was the drug that kept this monster sedated. Your validation was the lock on its cage. Now, in the face of your serene detachment, the drug has worn off and the lock has rusted away. He is now forced to confront the very parts of himself he used your devotion to escape. Your peace becomes the stark, silent backdrop against which he must witness his own inner chaos. His mind will work feverishly to re-establish control. He will engage in a desperate form of cognitive archaeology, digging through the ruins of your shared past. Every word, every gesture, every shared moment is now re-examined, not with nostalgia, but with the frantic energy of a detective at a crime scene. Where was the mistake? When did I lose her? Was it that one argument? Was it something I said? He is searching for a concrete error, a tangible misstep, because if he can identify a cause, he can theorize a solution. This is the ego, this grand illusion that all emotional states are problems to be solved with the right strategy. He cannot comprehend that you have not been lost, but have simply found yourself. He is trying to fix a broken vase, while you are forging a sword from the shards. The more he fails to find a logical cause, the more the confrontation with his shadow intensifies. He starts to see his own disowned qualities everywhere. If he is arrogant, he will suddenly perceive your confidence as an attack. If he is secretly needy, your independence will feel like an act of profound cruelty. You become a living Rorschach test, and every blank space your detachment provides is filled in by the ink blots of his own unconscious fears. He is no longer seeing you. He is seeing his own reflection in a fractured mirror, a distorted image of the man he is terrified of becoming, a man who is not enough on his own. This quiet devastation is the slow, agonizing process of him being forced to meet the parts of himself he has spent a lifetime running from. The woman who masters this detachment becomes, in essence, an unwilling spiritual guide, leading him into the underworld of his own soul. As this internal confrontation festers, the man's behavior often shifts from frantic pursuit to a more insidious form of engagement. He will attempt to weaponize the very connection he once craved. He might try to provoke jealousy, flaunting a new interest, hoping to spark a flicker of possessiveness in you. He might try to elicit pity, hinting at his suffering, hoping to appeal to the nurturing, caretaking aspect of the feminine he once relied on. Or, in a more aggressive maneuver, he might try to provoke anger, attempting to draw you back into the shared emotional battlefield where he feels more competent. These are the last desperate gambits of an ego that senses its own impending dissolution. It is flinging stones at the walls of your inner citadel, hoping to find a loose brick. And when these attempts fail, when his new romance is met with your quiet, genuine well-wishing, when his pleas for sympathy are met with a calm, compassionate boundary, when his provocations are met with a profound, unshakable peace, this is when the true devastation hardens into a permanent psychological scar. Because what you are demonstrating is not a strategy. It is a state of being. You are showing him that the levers he has always pulled to control the emotional world no longer work on you. You have graduated from the game he is still playing. This is the point where the ego, to protect itself from complete collapse, employs its most powerful defense mechanism, devaluation. He will begin to construct a new narrative. In this story, you are not whole, you are broken. You are not detached, you are cold and unfeeling. You are not self-possessed, you are a narcissist. He will tell himself, and perhaps others, that your serenity is a pathology. He does this because it is the only way his psyche can survive. The cognitive dissonance. It is less painful for him to believe you are a monster than to accept that he was simply not spiritually or emotionally equipped to exist. In the presence of a queen, he must pathologize your power to avoid confronting his own lack. You will feel this. It will come to you not as a direct assault, but as a subtle shift in the psychic atmosphere. A bitter energy, a resentful observation from a distance. But for the woman who has truly done her shadow work, this final act is seen for what it is, the death rattle of his projection. You will understand that his insults are not about you at all. They are confessions. When he calls you cold, he is confessing that your inner warmth is no longer for him. When he calls you arrogant, he is confessing that your self-worth intimidates him. When he calls you crazy, he is confessing that he cannot comprehend your freedom. His labels are admissions of his own limitations, and they bounce harmlessly off the shield of your self-knowledge. This is the moment the devastation becomes his alone to carry. The final stage of this quiet devastation is not a dramatic climax, but a slow, haunting resignation. The man's ego, having exhausted all its strategies of pursuit, provocation, and devaluation, finally retreats. But it does not retreat into peace. It retreats into a state of permanent, low-grade obsession. The woman's memory becomes a ghost that haunts the corridors of his mind. She is the psychological puzzle he could never solve, the song he can't get out of his head. He will see her in other women, searching for that same unnerving combination of softness and strength. But he will never find it, because it was not a personality type he was attracted to. It was a state of spiritual sovereignty. This is the Jungian concept of the imago. The woman has become an internalized image, an archetype frozen in time within his psyche. She is no longer a person to him, but a symbol. She represents the road not taken, the depth he was too afraid to explore, the version of himself he could have become if he had met her stillness with his own. He will measure other relationships against this ghost, and they will all feel shallow in comparison. The easy validation he gets from other women will feel like cheap candy after tasting. For a brief moment, what felt like soul-level nourishment, he will mourn the loss, not of the woman herself, but of the way he felt when he was striving to be worthy of her serene gaze. Her detachment forced him, however briefly, to try and climb higher. For the woman, this entire process culminates in a profound sense of liberation. You did not set out to devastate anyone. Your journey was never about him. Your detachment was a byproduct of your own healing, your own integration. It was the necessary consequence of choosing your own soul over someone else's ego. You have learned the Stoic truth that Seneca articulated: we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. You have stopped suffering from the imagination of what he thinks, what he feels, or what he might do. You have anchored yourself in the reality of your own unwavering worth. You begin to walk through the world with a different kind of energy. It is not an aggressive or defensive power, but a deep, resonant calm. It is the calm of the ocean's depths, which remains untroubled by the storms raging on the surface. Men will still be drawn to this energy, but the nature of the attraction changes. The fragile egos, the ones seeking a mirror, will be intimidated and keep their distance. But the men who have done their own inner work, the ones who are not seeking a woman to complete them, but to meet them in their own wholeness, these are the men who will recognize your light not as something to possess, but as a fire to sit beside. They will not be devastated by your detachment. They will be inspired by it. They will honor your inner citadel and will approach not as invaders, but as welcome kings who have built their own. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.